And we're back again on Sunday morning at 11:30 with Brooke and myself. Last few weeks talking about Feng Shui from a book by Dr. Nancy SantoPietro, who wrote about Feng Shui and health. She originally wrote this book a dozen years ago or so after some illnesses, and she had tried everything going from here to there and different doctors, and then discovered the ideas of Feng Shui, an ancient Chinese idea of arranging your environment
Mm.
to be more natural so that it will help your health as well as your well-being in general.
Yep.
And last week, I think we did several of the guas, which there's 9 of them, which are basically different areas, directional areas in your house or your environment, and pertaining to different parts of your life and health.
Yep.
And so we can continue on that, Brooke, if you want. Just carry on with any bagua you want to talk about or review if you want to.
Sure. We talked about the first 3 last week in detail. The first one was fame, second was marriage and relationships, and the third was children and creativity. So we're picking up at number 4, which is helpful people or travel. And helpful people or travel is in the the southeast corner of the bagua, or in your house or room. It says this section is located on the lower right-hand side. Its Chinese name is Qin, or it's Qin. It just depends on how we spell it in English. And it oversees 2 main categories in your life. The first is the energy that draws on the helpful people in your life. Helpful people are all those we come in contact with who help us and direct us along the way. They can include friends, family members who support and love us on a daily basis, or a counselor who helps us through a difficult time. Many times these helpful people show up quietly without a familiar face or name. One of them may even appear to us as the person who conveniently pulls out of the parking space just when we're in need of one. This section also represents the energy needed to attract opportunities and to help others. Clients, students, and other supportive people are pulled into our life from this gua. The other category, this section oversees that of travel. All aspects and opportunities related to traveling, business, or personal are generated from here. The head area of the body, the father, and the color is gray, are represented in this gua. It doesn't have a ruling 5th element.
Okay, and again, reviewing the directions, you start at your doorway to the house or the room, and then your directions are, well, the entrance would be south, and of course, across the room would be north, and to your right would be east, and to your left would be west. So this particular gua is the southeast, so that would be the corner to your right as you enter the door. All right, so the idea for your family and what was it, friends, and I can't remember the word. What was the word?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. It was for helping people who help you, and for travel.
Okay, so you want to arrange your environment in that area of the room or house to be compatible, to bring those things into can't think of the right word, bring it into moderation or balance. Mm-hmm. Now, why is it those 2 items? Have you figured out why that would be instead of just one item, or how those 2 items connect?
Well, I mean, this is only my own kind of thought process, but someone who, if you think about it, as this, like, I guess maybe pertains to my life a little bit, this is where I'm pulling this idea from, and that is, there are times we aren't very accepting of help. There's a lot of people who don't like to accept, can't, it's very hard to take from. And this is one of those things where you find that healthy balance in really accepting the help that is out there for you. And if you think about traveling, you think about fear, you think about getting out, going out there, being an active member of society, you helping other people helping you, it just kind of makes sense. We can't all live, trapped in this one little room. I know specifically with Taoism and with all of this, I mean, you're not supposed to just kind of sit and contemplate for the rest of your life. You're supposed to live. And by living, you interact with people and help and receive help. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, thanks. So the idea then, knowing that corner of your house or room or yard or neighborhood, for that matter, should be, well, what should we do? If we take a look at our room, for example, on the southeast corner or the right-hand side as we enter the room, what should we do about that corner?
Well, I mean, the first thing is obviously fix anything. Look at the clutter you have. Throw away what you don't need. Keep what you do. What kind of things do you have in that area? And is it blocking your ability to help other people or to accept help from those around you? Unfortunately, in my room, that part of the room is where my bed is. It was the only place my bed could go. And it's actually quite empty. So I guess it kind of, I have to admit the fact that, I have a hard time with people helping me, but I'm trying. So I guess I'm not the most perfect person to help with that particular area, but I do think she kind of goes on in the book to work on that.
Yeah, because there are things you can do if it's something that you can't readily change or easily. For example, if your bed can only go there, for example, there are things you can do by using, I can't remember the exact, you mentioned last week doing a plant, something living, or there's a concept of using mirrors to reflect or concentrate energy.
Yes.
Crystals.
Yeah, I did put plants. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah, right.
A plant in the corner, and my bed's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, I will say that's kind of where I hang out. That's where I read. I read to my kids, things like that.
Yeah, and interestingly, as I was reading the book, there was many cases where it was recommended that your bed be at a diagonal.
Yes, and I did that.
In the room.
Which is why I like, there's like this big empty space back behind my bed. So that's why I put that plant there, and I'm hoping to maybe put some more.
Yeah, and interestingly, as a kid, I had my own bedroom in my parents' home, and I think I almost always had it at a diagonal. Now I can't remember if my mother arranged it that way or because there were occasions when I'd move around. It was probably my mother that did that. It's kind of intuitively, perhaps.
Maybe.
And as I in the book, but in the last many years, I can't remember having a bed diagonal. So that's something I should maybe look at, because one of the principles is you, in certain circumstances, you want your bed diagonally facing the door.
Yes.
And and I was thinking about that this week. In my particular bedroom here, I can't really do that because it would be blocking a closet.
Yes.
So that would be a case where I'd have to do some hanging plant or a crystal or a mirror or something to direct the energy in the correct way.
Yeah, this room, the room that I'm renting, is the most anti-feng shui room. Like, it had everything wrong with it that this book So it was definitely interesting to try and figure this room out. And I haven't even done everything I'm supposed to yet. I haven't been able to buy any of the red string or all the other things, but at least I have it mostly settled.
Yeah, and one of the principles is that you try to want to avoid having a bed directly in line with the door.
Yes,
Because
especially your
for the
feet. Yeah.
Yes, there's little principles going on throughout the feng shui idea, but then again, she says, it's everything's not hard and fast. In fact, if something seems that it's not your form or whatever, then don't worry about it. Just move on. So you don't
Yeah.
literally have to do every little thing that she's saying in her couple hundred-page book.
No.
Just whatever seems intuitive or feels right to you, and of course, the type of feng shui she's doing is the black hat, which is just one of the many types of feng shui.
Yeah.
But all the principles are very similar, though.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to move on to another gua,
So,
which is one of the 9 guas of the bagua.
yeah. Number 5. Number 5 is the career section. The section of the Bagua located directly in the center at the bottom of the chart. So that's the south, the direct south. Provides the foundation energy that stabilizes the rest of the guas. Its Chinese name is Kun and oversees all matters concerning one's career, hobbies, life path, work, community service, volunteerism, and your personal skills. This is the Gua holding the energy that helps us connect with our personal genius, unique to each individual for his or her work and journey during this incarnation. This section differs from the fame area because it represents what you do as opposed to who you want to be known as. This section generates the chi force pertaining to the type of work you do or aspire to do. For instance, work-related issues like being hired for a job you applied for or getting a long-awaited proposal at work is generated from this gua. Our careers give us a very important way to provide service and return something to the world. The ways we contribute to society are very personal and wide-ranging and include such things as raising a family or volunteering at a local hospital. This gua represents the middle sun in the family and the ears on the body. It is ruled by the element of water and corresponds to the color black. Now, the thing I find fascinating is last week I was talking about also how it is represented in the I Ching. And so the funny thing is the Chinese name for this is the exact same as marriage and relationships. So you get the earth, the receptive, the humble, the hard work, the earth and the heavy earth energy. And I mean, I guess if you really think about it, how you do in your career, how you do in your marital relationships, your friendships, they're all so closely interconnected. But then I find it interesting that the other one is ruled by the earth, and then this one, the career, is ruled by the water. So it's just I'm just so interested, and it's definitely something I wish I could talk about with someone to dive deeper into why the certain symbols.
Yeah, now again, this particular area of your room or house would be on the wall where the door is. So you go through the door, and that particular wall is the career one.
Yeah.
Now, I think I heard you say it's not just literally career; it's also other aspects, physically working.
Yes, it represents what you do. It represents kind of your what we call your purpose in life. When Dr. Mao was in his book talking about finding your life purpose. What are you here to do? That's what that career center is. That's what's important.
Right. Yeah. Now I remember when we had talked to Dr. Mao, I had mentioned the idea of career in his chapters in his book,
Hmm.
thinking, well, I'm retired, so how does that apply to me? And he
Yeah.
basically said the same thing. It's,
Yeah.
what your purpose in life is what that would refer to.
Yeah.
Um, and then from the book, Dr. Mao's book, your purpose should contain helping others.
Yeah.
Uh, Primary thing that sometimes we forget, that
Yeah.
we're here not just for ourselves, but to help others. Yeah, very good. Um,
Remember, this is actually how we started doing this book on the book club. Is we were just finishing up Dr. Mao's book, and we were talking about the goodwill of business, and I didn't quite understand it, and I was like, oh, it's just that, and that's what we were talking about, like your goodwill in business. And that's where this comes
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So then again, on the wall, the south wall of our house or room, we need to clear that up, make sure everything is as it should be
from.
in an intuitive
Yep.
sense, if possible. And then what's our next
The next
squat?
gua is number 6, knowledge and spirituality. This area is located at the bottom left corner. Its Chinese name is Qin. It oversees all types of self-knowledge and ways we are able to enrich our understanding of who we are. This is the gua that generates the energy that brings us our opportunities and lessons for spiritual growth. It oversees all areas of spirituality, and when used for such practices as yoga, meditation, self-reflection, and prayer, it can become a very powerful healing area in your home. This area helps us to open up, develop our intuition, which is our source of personal knowing and truth. This section also supports all aspects of educational pursuits, ranging from academic to more informal and non-traditional types of study. The youngest son is represented here, as well as both hands on the body. This gua is not ruled by a primary fifth element, but does correspond to the color blue. So it's probably one of my favorites right now at the moment. And I showed you guys last time that I put my altar, my spiritual section, in my spiritual place in the room, and it is right by my door as I walk in, because that's where my door is placed. And I can't tell you how much that has helped. So clean it up, do what you can to help, you work your internal, compass.
And now the mention of colors. How do we incorporate colors in our feng shui design?
Well, I mean, when I'm dealing with colors, I specifically am dealing with a very one room. But you definitely, if you're looking at the entire house, I mean, the colors will help carry that energy, help bring the good energy, help attract the energy you want. So, blue, this particular gua corresponds to blue. So you'd want to use a lot of blue. I find it funny, the tapestry I have hanging in my altar is blue, and a friend gave it to me. He lived in China for 3 years, way back. Let's see, my daughter was 3, so he gave this to me 6 years ago, and it's blue. And I just feel that synchronicity of all the things that just popped up in my life. So that's what he brought back for me, and that's what I decided to hang. And of course, it has this beautiful blue green element to it, and if you get really close to it, it almost looks like water, like all the different wrinkling patterns. And I think
Yeah,
just things fall into place the way they're supposed to. So
yeah, very nice. And in reading her book, the Bagua is kind of based upon a rectangular room, it would seem to me. However, she
Yeah.
acknowledges that a lot of people don't have rectangular spaces or houses. Um, but it would almost seem, to me anyway, that theoretically a rectangular house may be ideal, but I'm not sure why that is, or if it's just traditionally that houses were rectangular,
Yeah.
hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago.
Well, rectangular houses are easier to build. It's easier to keep they're the strongest. And she actually does talk about, like, there's going to be she said not all rooms are actually rectangular. You'd think so. Like when she instructs you to draw a picture of your house or your room, she's like, don't just draw a square box, because you'll find sometimes that your room is not completely rectangular like you'd think. Like, I'm actually missing a section of my career and my helping people in my room. It's completely cut out. That it
Uh-huh.
belongs to the room next to me. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, when you put that bagua, even though it is not rectangular, you're going to notice there are parts missing, and that's part of your internal growth. Like, you picked this house to live in. What sections are missing? What are you having trouble with? So does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the first thing you said makes real good sense to me, because when I first started working as a teenager, I was electrician helper, and so I was building houses, putting the electrical wires and conduits in houses, and a rectangular or square structure is the strongest.
Yes.
For a lot of technical reasons, like the roof structure would be much stronger than if you had a L-shaped house or a odd edges on the house.
Yes.
And in fact, to demonstrate that, I was in Miami during Hurricane Andrew in '92, I think it was. I can't remember the
Hey,
date.
so was I.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And nobody gave, of course, Miami had not had a hurricane for many decades, so people had really not given it much thought about
Yeah.
building and so forth. And so many of the houses that were destroyed were the houses that were not rectangular. They were odd shapes, and they had roofing systems that were kind of complex, and they just blew off
Yep.
because they weren't physically as strong.
My ex-husband
Um,
builds houses, and he completely complains about these huge houses with all these intricate roof lines. And he's like, that's where things leak. That's where you get these, when you have these hills and valleys and water's drawn to, and it sits there, and it like it decomposes, and yeah, that's how things work.
yeah, my particular house, well, I should say, my neighborhood got pretty much directly hit, and most of the houses were newer houses, like in the '80s, or 10 years old, 15 years old. Mine was at that time, I think, 20 or 25 years old. So it was built probably a little stronger than the newer houses. But thinking back, it was a basically square shape, a rectangular shape, and it actually survived much better than any of the houses in my neighborhood. And
Yep.
it's been because of that rectangular shape, which is a little stronger, and they built things stronger years before.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then typically a rectangular or square house or neighborhood or yard uh, does make some practical sense.
Yeah.
And now I got to think the bagua is actually 8-sided,
Yes.
which is kind of like a modified circle.
Yes.
And in, I think it's Tibet, they have the yurts, the circular structures they make out of animal skins and framing because they're portable and they're
Yep.
actually circular. So I
Yeah.
guess that might be the most ideal. You have a circular house.
Um,
Um,
yeah, I would say, but if you think about the Bagua, it still has the straight lines. It's,
that's true.
it's actually an octagon. So
Yeah.
that is a very strong structure,
Yeah.
like a tower, like a castle tower.
Yeah. Well, years ago, I was fascinated by Buckminster Fuller's dome houses and structures.
Oh,
And
I love them.
supposedly, yeah, that's the most strong, simple structure there is. Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a lot of those built years ago, not so much anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, okay, that was a good, great answer, kind of, because I hadn't thought about that. Structurally, the square rectangular would be stronger than a odd one. But in the book, she gives lots of ways to modify your design if you have a house that's not that way, so you're not out of luck. And it turns
Absolutely.
out, yeah, my house is not rectangular. At first, when we started this, I thought, oh, cool, I got a rectangular house, no problem. And then when I looked at the actual shape of it, it's not even close, because
Yeah,
there's all kinds of little additions on one side and a garage on the other side, patio deck on the other side. It's just really not rectangular, which I was
yeah,
surprised to learn when I looked at it. Actually, I looked at it on Google Maps,
yeah,
and that hit me. It's not rectangular.
yeah.
It's building here. Okay, what was the? Well, I think we covered that pretty good. Why don't we just save the remaining ones for next week? And I
Sure.
think there's something else you had mentioned that you wanted to go over, and I can't remember if it was like emotional things or something. I
Yeah.
can't really remember.
I think once we finish the Bagua, I thought it would probably really be important to go back and maybe read through chapters. I think it's a little bit of 1 and 2, because she talks about being emotionally, mentally, and physically, more structured inside, and that's actually the part of Feng Shui that I have the most passion about, because this really has nothing to do with interior design. It has nothing to do with what your house looks like. It's about how you're put together. What is going on within you, and how can you make yourself a healthy area, your whole body, and then how to make where you live reflect that. And so that's why I kind of was thinking. So, but once we'll go through the Bagua first, because that's the most important part.
Right. Okay. She calls it ESP, which is the
Yes, please.
emotional, spiritual, physical. So those need to be in balance
Mhm.
themselves and among themselves. Yeah, very good. Okay, we covered some great material again. You've given me some new insights I didn't have while I was reading it, Brooke. So thank you very much for that. And we'll see everybody again 11:30 next Sunday, and continuing on with Feng Shui and things all attached to that.
Yeah.
So see you next
Bye.
time. Bye bye.